The Writer's Dossier Podcast is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network.
I am J.S. Bell, and this is my Writer's Dossier.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Writer's Dossier. I'm Jeff Circle, back here in the Writer's Dossier studio, Writer's Room, Podcast Hub, and occasional speakeasy. So I'm brought in J.S. Bell, the writer and the author of this banger right here. Welcome to Cottonmouth. Folks, you got to grab this book. Jay, thanks for joining us on the Writer's Dossier today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be
Yeah,
here.
man. We were talking before the show started, and you were down in Texas. Probably hot as hell down there, but we're not going to talk about the weather. I lived in Texas for 10 years and North and South Carolina for 10 years, and I'm glad to be back up here in Northwest Ohio where it's a little cooler. But welcome to Cottonmouth. Just to cover. I mean, Blackstone is coming up with some awesome stuff, and you've got an awesome agent in John Talbot. Yeah, you're doing everything right now. So I'm really happy to have you on the show because thanks for sending me the book. I mean, it was fantastic.
Yeah, well, if you're going to say that I'm doing everything right, can I record that for my wife, please?
You can play that on a loop. It's right here on the Writer's Dossier. Have her go to thewritersdossier.com. We'll put it in there, and it'll be on video on YouTube. So absolutely.
Right.
You hear that?
Fair.
I'm sure, we get right to it here at the Writer's Dossier. We keep these interviews quick so people can listen to your interview in the car. Got that 15-minute commute, so I'm going to hop right into this, Jay. I'm sure your main character in Welcome to Cottonmouth, Devlin Mahoney, can throw someone out of a department store as well as being the one thrown into the department store. Which is more likely?
Yeah, well, Devlin has some issues, right? I mean, he's a little quirky, and quirky. definitely has some baggage that he's dealing with, right? So yeah, I think if there was a good cause, he would definitely be the one to be thrown out because he's going to help somebody, sort of regardless of what he should be doing, and that's a little bit of a rule breaker. So yeah, I could see it. I can see him thrown out, and I can see him thrown in too, for that matter. So yeah, either one's fine.
He's one of those guys who has a particular set of skills. So yeah, he could throw somebody out pretty easily with a hip check and an arm bar, or he could act up. So tell us a little bit about Devlin Mahoney, what he's up to in Cottonmouth.
Yeah, Devlin is a retired Defense Intelligence Agency operative. He was undercover for many years, and he actually went to prison in Kosovo for a little while because of a botched situation that I won't get into. That's actually part of the second book, so we'll keep that under wraps for now.
Kosovo, no problem. It's a wonderful place.
In the summertime, yeah, especially.
In the summertime.
In Dubrava prison, it's really great. I mean, really, it's good stuff. But anyway, he's coming back from that, and he had little issues from torture, like not a good thing. So,
ouch.
Like I said, he's got some PTSD, he's got some issues, whatever you want to call it, and he winds up getting tasked by the government and to sort of be the de facto mayor of this town full of retired operatives, defectors, and so on. And just for a little context for that, if you don't mind, let me just add that when I started researching this, I didn't know this. I found out that the CIA has actually got an entire department for the resettlement of defectors or people who provide us with intelligence, National Resettlement Operations Center, and they're allowed to resettle up to 100 people per year. Now, they haven't met that goal yet, according to what they're going to tell us, right? Of course, they may not be telling the truth, but they've come close a few times. So you just think about that. How many spies and how many defectors and how many of these other folks have sort of been settled in the United States somewhere? So I'm thinking, why not settle them in a little town in Texas and call it Cottonmouth?
I think there might be a few here in Bowling Green, Ohio, but that's beside the point.
Fair. Yeah, so Devlin is my guy, and he's supposed to be taking care of folks there in the town. Of course, it's like I said, he doesn't always play by the rules, so sometimes there are conflicts that arise from that.
But we like not playing by the rules. It's kind of what we do here at the Writer's Dossier. It's kind of our touchstone. Everything we do, we check in with that. So you set out to not do the Reacher, the Gray Man, or the Mitch Rapps kinds of people, or the James Bonds. Did you craft some of those tough guy traits in with him and then add the flawed and quirky to get what you were looking for in order to come up with him? How did you sit down and you write? It's like, well, I don't want to copy. How far do you go down that rabbit hole with the quirk?
Yeah, it's interesting because you say you get to know people as you write them, right? You get to know your characters. They tell you who they are eventually. But Devlin, I mean, and this goes back. I sort of resist the trope of having the action man who's the Superman of the series and can do no wrong, smartest guy in a room. The whole stick that goes along with that. I wanted somebody that had some human traits and was not always necessarily the best driver, the best shot, the best whatever, right? But he can't be completely skillless. He has to have some of those skills. So one of Mahoney's skills is his gift of gab as much as anything else. He can talk the good game. But to your point, I think I started out just thinking, I don't want this guy to be end all be all. What can I say about him that, what can I start him out with that will help inform this character down the road? And that's where I came up with the initial burst of the character. And as I said, as I wrote through the book, he began to reveal himself even more to me. Some of those quirks were easily to identify, and some of his foibles were definitely easy to write from that standpoint.
Maybe some of your own smartassery bled into.
That is a lie. I am not a smartass. I never have been. I don't know where anybody got that. That's just, I think
we have our sources here at the Dossier. We've done some digging, so we're look. I'm reading through here and I'm like, oh, Devlin. Okay, got it. Okay, now we get it. What's your writing setup like? You're in Texas. You're north-ish Texas. Are you overlooking the hill country, an oil field? You've got a bunch of posters. People who are watching on YouTube this episode, the video episode here, you got a bunch of posters up there, and we'll talk about those in a second. But
yeah, sure.
What's your routine like? Tell people what you're up to.
Yeah, I am Jeff, I'm so boring. I mean, I'm a suburban guy. I look out my window, I see my neighborhood, I see my neighbor's house across there. It's very disappointing from a Texas standpoint. I have no cattle in the yard. I have no oil wells. I got none of that stuff. So
no steers hanging on the wall.
Guy. No steers on the wall, but I was born and raised in Texas, so at least I have the birth certificate that says that I was born here. So I want to stick by that. But as far as the rest of it, I don't even own boots or a cowboy hat. I'm just, but I grew up with the Texas mystique, the Texas Rangers and the Alamo and all the things that go along with that, and it's internalized. It's not something I necessarily wear on my sleeve. So,
okay,
but yeah.
Well, I lived in Central Texas for 10 years during and after the Army stint I had there. And I tell you, Texas has a way of just grabbing you. And for the longest time, I was, Texas. And then I left, and now it's just a memory. But it's cool. I love it because it's you've got so much to draw from there. Regionally, you can look in 4 different directions and get 16 different perspectives. So I love that about Texas.
Got the big cities with all the inherent issues that go along with that. And I write about East Texas because I find it such a culturally and ethnically diverse place to be. You've got everything from the rich people from Dallas and Houston that are building mega mansions and big properties out there, and then you've got the salt of the earth folks that have lived there their entire lives. They will do anything for you. They're just terrific people. And then you got the meth dealers that, because it is like the meth capital of Texas out there. It is a strange mixture of people, and I love it. It's just, like you said, you can go in a lot of different directions with a lot of different characters there.
Yeah. Well, you've written 11 other novels, and like I said, there are posters up behind you, and I'm guessing those are some of your other covers.
Yeah, this is my subtle marketing technique. So
I like it. Now you're rebranding your author persona, a new publisher, new story, and a break from an early career. Tell us about that and why.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because I don't want to call these practice books. I'm really proud of all of them that I wrote under the name Scott Bell by itself. It started out as a small press as opposed to going to the big houses, right? And I've had a great relationship with my publisher there, Red Adept. And I, started 2014. I published a book called Jaeger's Law, which again, I'm super proud of. It's been out now, 11 years, and I've got, developed that series. But then, I'm the writer equivalent of squirrel, right? I mean, anytime I see a new idea, I start chasing it. So I don't necessarily write in a genre that would classify that people can identify with. Oh, Scott Bell, that guy writes, like they do with Lee Child or Dick Francis or one of those. You see the name, automatically know exactly what you write, correct? So anyway, I was all over the place. I've got standalones, I've got ghost stories, I've got weird westerns, all sorts of stuff to my credit as Scott Bell. But went to Blackstone and how long do I have to tell the story? But anyway, I went to Blackstone originally. When I first tried to sell this under Scott Bell name, and they were like, all the slush readers are like, yeah, acquire it. But the editor looked at the book sales from, my previous history and it's like, maybe not. So turned it down. We went around for a little while and then got introduced to a guy there who was their TV film guy, and he liked the log line of Welcome to Cottonmouth. So I sent him the novel. He said, hey, we can acquire this. But because, the sales, whatever, we're just going to say, new name, new start, rebrand you, and take off from there. So that's the short version. I mean, there's a whole lot more that went on in between there, but that's the quick nutshell version of how I became J.S. Bell instead of Scott Bell.
No, that's fantastic, because as an encouragement to our writer listeners who are out there who have been banging it out, and just maybe like you were, and just how you can make that turn, and also to explain to everybody out there that you may not have heard of J.S. Bell before. That makes a lot of sense, but he's got a lot of experience, and so you'll notice that right off the bat when you're reading Welcome to Cottonmouth. And as far as that subtitle, Cottonmouth, Texas population classified, is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Population is classified. Absolutely. You can't know.
With all of your writing experience and everything that you've learned from those other novels and what you've learned going forward with this one, let me ask you, you have a really strong female character in this. What do you say to editors and publishers and readers? And there's an editor out there who's listening. I know you're out there. We've had this conversation. What do you say to those people who question whether you can write from a strong female POV, or at least write a character in a believable way, being a male?
Yeah, that's a great topic. I mean, sure, we can go around and around about all sorts of things you could do with that, both gender wise as well as racially and ethnically and culturally, and you can make all sorts of cases about why you need to have that experience. But I've never been a woman in my life, so I have to extrapolate from what I know about women. And here's the thing, Jeff, it's very simple for me. When I again go back to what I talked about before, the main character, like I don't know, one of the superheroes, one of the action heroes. We'll pick on Jack Reacher because everybody knows Jack Reacher, right? Uh-huh. So you've got Jack Reacher, and he's the smartest guy in the room, and he always is. And whenever there's in Child's right, competent, strong female characters, but for some reason, whenever Jack shows up, all their brains seem to just disappear, right? And so I think the way I phrase it is this, they go. Guy says, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And the gal's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to follow you. Have you ever really known a woman in your entire life who did not have an opinion about what you should do in a given situation? I mean, so really, I just look at it from the standpoint.
Fifth on that, Jay.
But what I'm saying to you is that if you can understand where they're coming from, how, I don't want to start sounding like I'm a sexist, but how women think, right? They think differently. I don't care what you say. They think differently than men do. They act differently than men do. And that's great. I love it. I love the difference and whatnot. So what I try to do is make sure I don't write women like I would write a man, right? So they've got to have a certain differences about how they go about things. I would say to editors the same thing, because I get pushed back about writing about other cultures, and like, well, how can you do that? Because you're, just middle-aged white guy. What do you know about cultures in other countries? But you can learn. People can understand things. You can read. You can interact. I mean, I interact with half the population being women. If I haven't figured out a little bit about them by now, then I'm really in trouble. But
I'm reminded of one of my favorite movie lines from Jack Nicholson, and he's got a ton from the movie As Good as It Gets. Drop the link in the show notes to a YouTube clip of that line where he's this big, giant romance writer. And he finally goes to his publisher's office, and there's this little receptionist girl there, and she's starstruck, and she looks up at him, and he was looking down, and she, with such a sincere voice, looks at him and says, "How do you write women so well?" And Jack, with that smile, looks at her and says, "You know, I think of a man, and then I take away reason and accountability." And she's frozen and just ruins everything. She adored this guy, and that's their answer. So I'll put the link to that because Jack Nicholson nails it. But I don't suggest you lead with that as an answer. We might move this whole question up to the beginning of the podcast.
That's not going to happen.
No, not going to
happen. I mean, I can joke around with the best of them, but there are times it's not appropriate to joke. So we're just not going to do that.
Well, we're going to make some waves here on this episode. All right. Last question here. The Writer's Dossier. We're guessing that with a personal background in loss prevention as well as sales, you ran across plenty of people in your time, I'll bet, during your career that gave you ideas for character personalities. Are there any cases that you can think of where you saw a person and thought, that's a good character in a book?
I like the question. I wish I had an answer that made sense that I could just point to and say, yeah, that's that guy. I remember that guy. But I think all those folks that I dealt with, and started out in my career in just out of college, or I actually still in college as a store detective, right? Catching shoplifters. And it's strange how the diversity of people you catch who are stealing, right? Because I worked in a very upscale mall in North Dallas, and the rich lady with
Plano?
the Jaguar.
Was that in Plano?
It was actually in Prestonwood Mall. It's not there anymore.
Because there are some nice places up there. Yeah.
Not this was way back before Plano was really an idea. But we're going back in the Wayback Machine now, Jeff. Okay? But anyway, well-to-do yuppies, if you will, people live with money, with prestige, with power. I mean, they're would shoplift just like anybody else. So it was a real eye opener for me in terms of how people could act in situations. And obviously they weren't bad people. They just made a mistake. They did something dumb. They couldn't help themselves, whatever the case is. I mean, they just did it. And that's sort of, I think all my interactions with people who have been in that situation on the other side of the table from me, either as a store detective or as a interviewer who is trying to elicit a confession from somebody who is an employee who has been dipping in the till, if you will. All those interactions have informed my idea of characters. And I think that rather than saying there was one specific person, I think an amalgamation of that behavior type is sort of built up in the back of my mind, so that when I do write somebody in that circumstance, and even the bad guys aren't all bad, right? So
no, exactly, they're not. You've got to find something likable about a bad guy to make him interesting. And you bring so much experience, life experience and writing experience to this book right here. Welcome to Cottonmouth, folks. It's out now. Go ahead and get this thing. And just looking at the back, really nice comments from Best Thriller Books, our friends there, Jerome Chrysler, Stephen Hartoff, my pals, everyone. This is a cool book. Blackstone nailed it. You nailed it. Congratulations. And man, there's even just a little bio in the back. People need to grab this. If you're looking on YouTube, you'll see I'm holding it up. It's a wonderful cover. Grab it today. jsbell.com. That's where everyone should go. You can find everything about Jay there. You can find out more about the book there. Just go anywhere books are sold. You get this from Blackstone. Fantastic. And audiobook. Is there going to be an audiobook?
It is. There's already, I think it's already available on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there we go. Grab
Eduardo
it. And
Bellerini is the narrator.
Eduardo, I just finished a book by Eduardo. I forget. He's fantastic. He's always been amazing. Mm-hmm. And he needs to get in the dossier too. Eduardo, get in the dossier. Follow, like, share, subscribe, everything. Share this episode, please, for Jay, and get this book. Go to his website, jsbell.com. Get his dossier at thewritersdossier.com. And Jay, thanks so much for joining the podcast here today. Yeah, you bet. We'll see you around, man.
The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.